our community, our hometown. This is Kearney Live, presented by 102.7 FM and KMO-TV. Kearney Live is a close-up look at the people, places, and events that matter to you. And now, here are the hosts of Kearney Live, Mike Davis and Jim Dickerson.
How about that? Welcome to Kearney Live. Here we are, the very first day in our new studio here at the 102.7 FM facility, right? Welcome, Jim. Good seeing you. I can see you on the monitor. It means Brian's got us on camera, too.
That's very exciting.
Right. Or
we have so many different cameras in here.
I know it.
We were used to only having 3. Now we have like 7. So everything's a lot better. And we've talked about this before. With this new setup, you and I can actually talk to each other. For those of you who remember in the studio when we had it next door, if I wanted to talk to Brian or to Mike, you're looking at the side of my head, so I had to talk to the monitor. I couldn't talk to you, but it's nice to be able to talk to you directly.
Which it's nice to be able to talk to you, and it's nice that you're here today, which as people know, you travel a lot. You're a pilot, and as a matter of fact, we were shooting a video down at the airport yesterday for the company you work for, EquityJet, and we got to tour because we were on board these really cool aircraft, the ones that you fly, the jets. And what a fun experience that was. It was a lot of fun yesterday.
You know, part of the neat part about that was the fact that we were talking about this a little bit before we went on the air, is that I see that every day. So we kind of take it for granted, you know, that sort of thing's down there. But it was kind of neat showing everybody where everything is and how it all works and that sort of thing. So we did that promo for EquityJet, which they're going to be a sponsor of the Coach Minnick Show, which we'll talk a little bit about that more later today, but they're going to be a sponsor of that show. And it was just great to have everybody down there and kind of show everybody how everything works.
Yeah, no doubt about it, and it's fascinating anyway. By the way, the other person that was with us is our producer-engineer, Brian Watts. That's right. He's got his own camera right there. Yep. And he's got the Argyle socks that go with the background.
That's not right.
And the sweater, I believe.
That is nice.
Well, you're looking good, Brian. And thank you very much for all of your hard work on the new studio. It's a big deal to us. Our audience may not be quite as excited about it as we are, but...
well, that was a pretty healthy applause, though.
I should say so. Yeah, well, we still have the live studio audience.
That's right.
Yeah, so... Jim, I know you've got a couple of announcements to make before we get started with our guests, because we have a few guests today.
We do, so I'll be really quick with this. First of all, I want to let you know the Kearney Enrichment Council is going to have an open house. That's on August 15th. It's from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The most important part of that is they're going to have food and drinks. But stop by and see them. That's their first ever open house. The other thing is, this is a really, they do this every year, but it sells out quick. So we wanted to let you know what it is. The Clay County Sheriff's Department is going to have another one of their Citizens Academies. If you haven't gone, they only allow 20 people. It's from September 20th to November 15th. From 6 to 9 p.m. Now, they only meet once a week, but those 20 slots go really quick. So go over to the Clay County Sheriff's Department's website, take a look at that, and make sure you sign up quickly. That's all I have, and Mike, back to you.
Thank you, Jim. Well done. Well, let's get started today. We've got Jonathan Ridgeway. He is the Youth Prevention Media Specialist with Youth with a Vision. And Jonathan, welcome to the show. Good to see you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. Now, a couple of weeks ago, we had one of your co-workers on here, Diane, who was terrific, and she told us a little bit about Youth with a Vision and some other things, all part of Kearney Holt CAN. Is that correct?
That's correct. Kearney Holt CAN is the local prevention coalition that's under a big umbrella that the prevention department at Tri-County really manages and overlooks.
Right. Well, the reason you're here is to speak more specifically about Youth with a Vision. So tell us, we've never known anything about it because, frankly, we're all still learning something about it. So jump in. You're the expert.
I'd love to talk about Youth with Vision. So Youth with Vision is a student-led organization. We compromise students between the ages of 8th grade and 12th grade. And they're all just a bunch of student leaders that are really interested in making a change when it comes to drug policy and really making sure that kids are making the right choices in their future.
Right. And I guess one would ask then, how are you getting the kids involved in what are they doing to help in drug, alcohol, and other substance abuse type prevention?
Absolutely. So our students are really focused on informing the community, and it's not just about informing everyone around and their own peers in schools and things like that. It's about informing lawmakers and really going above and beyond and making sure that the people who make the laws are really understanding what's happening in youth's lives.
Right. The first thing, when you say a thing like that, it makes one wonder, well, what's wrong with it now, and how is law enforcement involved in it now? I mean, I would think that the things that are going on with regard to law enforcement protecting and managing drug use at any level is all on the up and up and pretty legal, and I don't think the implication is that they're doing anything wrong, but I'm just trying to make the connection between the youth involved in Youth with a Vision and their conversations with law enforcement.
Of course, and that's the two sides of prevention. You obviously have law enforcement, which we work a lot with, but there is a large part before law enforcement's involved into talking about the culture that we as a society and locally, how things such as where alcohol appears, the availability of vapes and cigarettes, and youth access to that. And Youth with Vision is really focused on making sure that the laws that pertain to these decisions that the local community does are the right decisions that we make to prevent law enforcement from having to be a part of that process. We want to prevent instead of deal with it afterwards.
I see. Well, if kids are talking about this in school, what are some of the conversations that they have with some of their classmates? And I know we're going to visit in a little bit with Jonas Beckham, who is a student at Smithville High School. He'll be a junior this year, and we'll have him on the show here in just a minute, or when you finish up. But I'm curious about some of the conversations that happen within the school when those kids are around each other as it applies to Youth with a Vision.
Well, what's great about Youth with Vision is that we really focus on educating people about how substances affect the teenage brain. There's a lot of misinformation out there, or just conversations that we don't really talk about. Our big push in the past few years has been impaired driving, because we talk so much about drinking and driving, but we don't talk about marijuana and driving. We know that it's wrong, but people don't hear that it's wrong as often as drinking and driving. So a lot of what Youth with Vision does is develops advertising, social media campaigns that reach students and get these points across.
Yeah, I mean, I guess as an older adult, I'm thinking, okay, and I'm not naive, but you'd have to ask, how are kids getting their hands on alcohol right now? It's hard for a 20-something to buy liquor without the proper ID, I would think.
You know, you say that, but it's actually very surprising. In the Tri-County region, Clay, Platte, and Ray, we do checks each year, and we actually bring in Youth with Vision students to check and see if they can buy alcohol or tobacco products. In 20% of our visits, we have been able to purchase those for the youth. The youth can purchase them themselves, and that's a shocking statistic.
It absolutely is. In fact, Diane mentioned that when she was on the show, and so the kids are actually walking in to a retailer and attempting to make a purchase of alcohol.
And 20% of those attempts, they could walk away with it if we were not there and stepped in and said, hey, you didn't check this ID. You sold to a minor, And we're not law enforcement. But
So they don't get arrested.
No
Yeah.
arrest, but we tell them and we give them a stern warning. Next time you might not be so lucky.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's fascinating. And I guess the other aspect of it, yes, medical marijuana is legal in the state of Missouri, but again, there's an age limit on that as well, correct?
Correct.
So how are kids getting pot? How
And
does that work?
There's so many outlets, and you can only do so much about getting their hands on it. But what we strive to do is to make them think twice before they try and buy a vape. If they are encountering marijuana with their friends, you can't stop the substances from getting out there, but you can spread information to counter that and to make sure that youth know what these drugs and substances are doing to their bodies and their brains.
You know, you talk about vaping, and we're seeing ads now on any level of television now where they're talking about their public service announcements that talk about how unhealthy what was presumably the alternative to tobacco, the healthy alternative to tobacco.
So they said.
Right, and so how are kids helping with get that? I got to tell you, I don't know how many places I've been where I'll see kids getting out of cars, and then this big cloud of
plume of
vaping,
smoke.
right? Yes, comes out of the car, and I got to believe that, you know, they're either not paying attention or they just don't care that it really is harming.
Well,
yes.
it's very funny that you bring up those public service announcements because Youth with Vision has a large part in both producing as well as creating those ads. So some of those public service announcements you've seen might actually be from some of the Youth with Vision kids who designed the entire campaign.
Yeah. Here you are involved working with youth, and I'm sure I don't know if this was your goal in life, but how did you get started in working in a program such as this?
Well, it's so interesting. I originally began in marketing, and before this I actually worked for private equity. So going from private equity into a nonprofit is a real change of pace. But as soon as I found out what these kids could do to make a difference, I really just fell in love with the entire prevention program.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things you talk about when we talk about drug prevention is when you're dealing with marijuana or alcohol, those tend to be a long-term, effect. It's addictive, or you have a long-term thing. When you're dealing with fentanyl, how do you get the word out on something like that? Because that's a sometimes one-hit thing, and it's immediate. It's not like it's a addictive thing. One and you're out.
Fentanyl is one of those substances that we have really been pushing hard for the past year because there has been such a danger to Northland youth. It appears everywhere. It's not just a big city problem anymore. And we really do have to stress just in social media, in schools, really getting that message out to students that say no random pills. These kids are getting these pills on the internet through their friends, but unless a doctor is prescribing you this and you get it from a pharmacist, you can't trust any random pill, even if a friend is giving it to you.
Yeah, I just wonder if they're listening, because
I sure hope.
There's always that won't happen to me sort of thing, and I don't know. I mean,
that's one of the rough parts of prevention, but someone's got to say it, and especially youth saying this message to their friends and peers. It means a lot more coming from someone that looks like you versus us. Adults have a different view of the world, and being able to reflect what students feel in those ads and social media campaigns really makes a difference instead of me telling someone, don't do fentanyl.
Well, what I would hope is making an impact is because it's happening a lot in the schools, even locally. And, when you have a death of a student that or you knew, or, somebody in your school, that's different than someone else down the street or someone in another state or someone you've never heard of. So
Absolutely.
As sad as that is, I'm hoping that the impact is, because like I said, it's not an addictive thing. It's not a overtime thing. And, we've always taught parents, look for these signs of this, that, and the other, and that, and the other. But you're looking for signs of something that takes months and months and months to show itself. The fentanyl thing, you don't have months and months and months.
As one of the campaigns around the area, we say one pill can kill. And that's a big danger, and we need to let students, as well as the greater community, understand that it only takes one time, and we'd prefer it to never happen at all.
I would agree with that, and we're going to get ready to take a break here real quickly, Jonathan, and we're going to come back with Jonas Beckham, and I'd like to thank you for being all the hard work that you've done and that you're doing now with Youth with a Vision. That's Jonathan Ridgeway that's been with us here early this morning. This afternoon, I should say, it's already afternoon here on Kearney Live. We're going to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Simplify your banking, simplify your life. It's easy with Kearney Trust Company. Kearney Trust goes beyond convenient locations and good customer care to offer banking services that make managing your finances quicker and easier than ever before. Online, bill pay, e-statements, and mobile banking are available to give you a positive banking experience so you can get back to your life and activities. Kearney Trust also provides capital to people and businesses so they can achieve their goals. Whether you know exactly what you want or just need someone to talk to about your dream, you can speak with them and work on that dream. Kearney Trust Company is your partner for success with 2 convenient locations in Kearney at 310 West 92 Highway and 701 Watson Drive in Price Chopper. The phone is 816-628-6666. Kearney Trust Company. Banking you can trust. Member FDIC.
Electric cooperatives are different. We have a sense of pride in our local community and support the people who live here. That's why Platte Clay Electric Cooperative supports local schools, takes an active role in economic development, and works hard to keep costs down for its members. We exist for one purpose, to empower communities and energize life with safe and reliable energy. To learn more about how Platte Clay Electric Cooperative is working to achieve that mission, visit www.pcec.coop. Platte Clay Electric Cooperative.
You may have noticed your shoulder hurting, or maybe a kink in your neck. The culprit may be looking right at you. Your phone. Think about how you use it. Does that pain feel familiar to you?
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Strathman with Kearney Family Chiropractic Center, and I've been practicing chiropractic health in Kearney for over 22 years. When you come to see me, I identify what's wrong and determine if I can help you. If I can, I create your personalized plan for relief.
When you have pain, you can make an appointment by calling 816-628-6738, or you can visit the office at 301 South Platte Clay Way, Suite B in Kearney. Kearney Family Chiropractic Center. Heal yourself.
And welcome back to Kearney Live. I am your host, Mike Davis, along with producer-engineer Brian Watts and Jim Dickerson, the ever-present co-host of this very program. And I want to introduce, hi, Jim. It's great to see you.
Good to see you.
In this double shot. I know.
You may carry on.
You know, for all anybody knows, we could have just been shooting remotely from one another. So, but here we are.
Not anymore.
We truly are in the same studio, which is just remarkable. It's something new. It's all shiny and brand new, Brian. Thank you for all your good hard work on this new studio. I want to introduce with Youth with a Vision, Jonas Beckham, a junior at Smithville High School. Welcome to the show, Jonas.
Thank you for having me.
It is our pleasure. And, I was asking Jonathan all of these questions about how in the world do these kids get a hold of drugs and alcohol and these things that really are controlled substances, and yet the reality is they do. They do get a hold of them.
They certainly do.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about what you're doing with Youth with a Vision to help prevent such a thing.
So Youth with Vision has a just myriad of opportunities to help enforce prevention and help kids realize the risks associated with prevention. We have multiple campaigns throughout the year. We had a Fill Your Cup campaign for mental health. We've dabbled in quite a few things, and as well as new drugs like fentanyl, as we were talking about previously, as well as kratom and other drugs everywhere, especially marijuana and opioids. We dabble in quite a bit of just everything, as well as dealing with legislators and legislation.
And what do you do when you are dealing with legislators and law enforcement? And you set up a meeting?
Yes,
or how does that work? Explain to me how that process works.
So every year, Youth with Vision meets with legislators in Jefferson City, and we try to inform them and help them understand what bills are coming up concerning drugs, what they can do to help, how they could even co-sponsor a bill. And we do this several times a year, and we're just trying to inform the legislators so that they can make the best decisions for all of the Northland.
Now, you don't just show up at Jeff City. I mean, you've got to make a phone call, right?
Certainly.
And how does that connection work? I mean, for a 17-year-old, I'm typically thinking that I can't imagine myself at 17 making a call to Jefferson City to call my local representative. How does that work? Who makes the phone call? Who sets up the meeting?
Luckily, we have some great adults surrounding us. So usually it's the adults like Jonathan Ridgeway or Sherry Miller who make the calls, but the youth themselves actually meet with the legislators. Unfortunately, we don't get to just set up random meetings.
Right. And I would imagine the same thing when you're working with creating meetings and setting up with law enforcement to talk about youth with a vision. Now, as you're working with your own peers, the students at Smithville High School, how are they responding to what you're doing here with Youth with a Vision?
The effect is a little bit subtle. Because it's prevention and not enforcement or reaction, you don't see giant effects, but you do see gradually over time the amount of kids who use drugs dropping. You see people who were formerly so into drugs, they were just using them every day, now starting to think a little bit, oh, wait, this actually might have a cost to me. It might have a cost to my mental health, to my physical state. And it's a little bit more gradual and subtle than you would think, but you can definitely tell.
When did Youth with a Vision start this program where there are actually representatives like yourself within high schools?
So Youth with Vision was founded in 1994 to serve as a youth advisory council for the TCMHS prevention programs and their coalitions.
So, when Mike and I were in high school, back in the, 1910s, give or take, you had different groups, and I'm sure it's the same now. You had the different groups within the school. You had your athletes, and you had your scholars, and you had the people that were in chess club.
That's what I remember.
Then you had the potheads, is what we used to call them.
Yes.
But the problem we had then, and I'm wondering what it's like now because I haven't been to high school in a while. I mean, those were 7 of my best years. But the question,
I see what you did there.
The thing I have is, how do you get the people who are as a general rule, the people who are using the drugs aren't going to listen to anybody. They're surely not going to listen to adults. But how do you guys interact with them and get them to listen to you? Or how do you try to get your message across so they actually do listen?
Generally, we just want to be as friendly as possible. No one's going to listen to you if you're rude or inconsiderate, and we want to just show them the information because there's so many resources out there that show drugs are terrible for you. They're going to just ruin your health, ruin your mental state, and they can lead to a lot of terrible things down the road. There's also quite a few facts around the the notion that youth substance abuse is actually far more dangerous than adult substance abuse because the youth's brain hasn't fully developed, and as it develops, if the youth uses some substances, say marijuana, their brain will actually become significantly more likely to become addicted to that substance.
You mentioned a while back, or I think Jonathan mentioned, and Diana did too, or Diane had mentioned this, that it was a fill a cup. Did I get that right? Tell me what that meant. I think that was one of the activities that you organized within the school, right? And
yes,
explain what that is.
So the Fill Your Cup campaign was a youth-led campaign around the Northland area. Excuse me.
Take your time. This is easy. Yep, you're doing great.
Thank you. So the Fill Your Cup campaign was a youth-led campaign concerning mental health and healthy coping mechanisms. A lot of kids nowadays aren't getting the coping mechanisms that they need. If they encounter stress in the school day, they're resorting to drugs, which is just a terrible, terrible idea. So the Fill Your Cup campaign introduced kids to new coping mechanisms, say reading a book or playing sports, or just talking with other people about your feelings, and it was meant to, firstly, improve mental health across all youth in the Northland area, and secondly, keep people away from using drugs as a coping mechanism.
Now, when you set up Fill Your Cup at Smithville, this was county-wide, or other high schools were involved in this as well? And how does the school work together with you to set up these programs?
So unfortunately, I wasn't a high schooler. The Fill Your Cup campaign took place mainly before I was in high school, from 7th to 8th grade for me. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to be an active part of that to a great extent.
But now there are, obviously you have mentors and connections like Jonathan Ridgeway who can help set these programs up and get with the school district to really make these things happen. So we're getting ready we're going to have to take another break here. We've got more guests coming on here in a little bit. But I want to thank you so much for being here. Jonas Beckham with Smithville High School, and getting ready to go to your junior year, man. Oh man, it goes by fast, doesn't it?
Certainly.
Well, thanks so much, and best of luck to Youth with a Vision. I think it's a great program for for anybody, quite honestly, because I think it helps remind everybody that it's stay away from the drugs and alcohol. It's just no future in it at all. We're going to be back here in just a minute, and we've got Dr. Emily Miller with us, right? It's all about schools. Stay with us. You're listening and watching Kearney Live. Good to have you with us.
You value choices when it comes to the products and services you bring into your home. That's why Platte Clay Electric Cooperative gives you control over the energy you use. PCEC offers members ways to save with energy efficiency rebates and demand billing. You even have the power to choose the resources used to produce your power. To learn more, visit www.pcec.coop/power. Platte Clay Electric Cooperative. Your power, your way.
Migraine headaches, the throbbing in your temples, the pounding in your forehead, extreme sensitivity to light and sound. Your neck feels so tight it could snap off. Oh, the debilitating pain.
Hi, I'm Dr. Mark Strathman with Kearney Family Chiropractic Center, and I've been practicing chiropractic health in Kearney for over 22 years. When you come to see me, I identify what's wrong and determine if I can help you. If I can, I create your personalized plan for relief.
When you have pain, you can make an appointment by calling 816-628-6738, or you can visit the office at 301 South Platte Clay Way, Suite B in Kearney. Kearney Family Chiropractic Center. Heal yourself.
Online banking at Kearney Trust Company gives you 24/7 access to your checking, savings, money markets, CDs, and loan accounts. You can access your accounts anytime from your home, office, and mobile devices. Online banking with Kearney Trust combines convenience and flexibility to bank on your own terms. Kearney Trust Company is a partner for success with 2 locations in Kearney at 310 West 92 Highway and 701 Watson Drive in Price Chopper. The phone is 816-628-6666. Kearney Trust Company. Banking you can trust. Member FDIC.
Welcome back to Kearney Live, and Mike Davis along with Jim Dickerson and producer-engineer Brian Watts on the most popular, the most important radio and KMO-TV program in Kearney, Missouri, maybe even the entire world. We don't know yet. The numbers aren't in. But I'll tell
Actually, they are. We beat CNN again, but that's not really that hard.
Not difficult at all. I'll tell you what we do have. We have Dr. Emily Miller. She is the Kearney, Missouri School District Superintendent. And yes, it's official now, right? Well, wonderful. Well, it's nice to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's our pleasure. We're getting ready to start school, but I guess school's never out for the superintendent. Is that right?
No, it keeps going.
Did you take a vacation?
We did. We ended up going up to New York to see family.
Wow.
Arrived and tested positive for COVID. So
Oh,
I had to
good
pack
heavens.
up.
We weren't even going to talk about COVID, and look what you did. You went and got
to start that way.
It's all right. That's okay. I would imagine you're probably pretty tired of dealing with it at any level.
We're ready to move past
Yes,
that.
aren't we? Yes, indeed. What are some of the things that it's exciting every year? I got to believe is exciting for an educator. You get to see the kids that you knew from before, and you get to see the new ones coming in. What's the first day of school like for the superintendent?
Oh, well, it's out being visible in schools. But, you know, I'll tell you, even this past week, we had Kindergarten Jumpstart. And what a fun day that is to watch their kindergartners come into the schools, get acclimated and get settled and see their teachers for the first time. But the first day of school is just being out, being present, getting to see all the different schools. It's a good day.
As I recall, the first day of school for kindergarten and younger level is generally tougher on the parents than it is
That is often true.
on the students.
That is often true.
They all drive away in tears. Yeah.
Well, actually, we had lots of happy little 5-year-olds.
Yes.
So it was a good day.
Yeah, it's a cute age.
Yeah.
It sure is. What are some of the things that are going on that locally, I guess, or even nationally, that as it applies to Kearney, Missouri? What are some of the things that are going on right now that are at the top of your list as concerns?
Yeah, so I think first and foremost, we talked about COVID and kind of joked about that a little bit, but, really starting the school year focused on instruction. The last 2 school years, unfortunately, that's been distracted by a lot of management, making sure that kids are healthy to be in classrooms, making sure we have subs covered. That was really a challenging last 2 years. So I think first and foremost that resuming the focus on teaching and learning, right, and sending that message so that people, feel connected to their schools. Those partnerships between teachers and parents are so critical, and again, reinforcing that message for our community.
Right. Now you obviously are at a high level of education and running a school district, or helping to run a school district. Was this a career goal of yours? How did you get to here?
Oh, well, I appreciate you asking that. It was, a process of evolution, I guess. You know, when I first started my educational career, you know, I'm starting my 29th year in education. So I started out as a special education teacher. Administration was not the necessary or desired career path, and I, you know, focused on teaching students with emotional disturbances. So I did that for a number of years. And I think just good mentors along the way, you know, encouraged me to take different roles as a coordinator or a director of special education, and kind of evolved to being assistant superintendent of operations and an interim superintendent. And I understood the role of the superintendent is about caring about all kids. It's about caring about all staff and all matters. So, you know, I think just those different processes, those different opportunities and mentors along the way, and you know, Kearney is just such an ideal district. It just was too good of an opportunity for me to pass up being here.
Mm-hmm. So when you look at Kearney, what are some of the sort of the things that stand out to you that make Kearney a special school district?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that question. I think first and foremost, you can tell the culture of commitment, families. I mean, the school district is supported by all sorts of institutions, but that relationship between parents and school is very profound here.
So it's unusual then. I mean, this is not a thing that you ordinarily see.
I think it's very unique here, and I think it's evident whether it's academics, whether it's athletics or activities. You sense it across the board. So I think it's a very special district. Yes.
Well, I was going to ask along those lines, because a lot of school districts are having trouble getting teachers, or they're losing teachers. Are you guys seeing some of the same thing, or are you a little more stable, or what's going on
so
there?
You know, that's another standout aspect in regards to Kearney. I mean, very, very veteran teaching staff. So we've been fortunate. I believe almost all of our certified positions are filled. We have more vacancies in our classified staff, you know, some of our paraprofessionals or daycare providers. So some of those positions we're still currently actively filling, but you know, we see that competitive job market across the nation. So that is something that we want to be mindful of, making sure that we take care of our staff. And again, you can tell when you have a veteran teaching staff and their impact on student achievement, and I think that's very evident in Kearney.
How involved are you on a day-to-day basis? You mentioned earlier, you said, well, you're not that visible within the school, or unless I misunderstood you, on the first day of school or at any time. Now, are you walking through the halls of the high school or some of the other schools, or?
Yeah, so on the first day of school, I definitely want to be visible in schools. And so I think that's a good question. So my previous district, I'm coming from a district of 18,000 students. And this is a different district of about 3,500 students. And that was another reason why it was appealing. It allows me to be more connected to principals, be more connected to teachers, and have that opportunity to be in schools more.
I think that's good, and I think that's kind of where I was headed, because I think that being closely associated with the actual teachers, the boots on the ground, if you will, it gives you, I think, a better sense, I would imagine, of what some of the needs are from the teachers themselves. Are you approached often with things that teachers have on their minds and things that they're concerned with?
No, I appreciate it. So really, next week, I've got 30 minutes with each of the schools. And the purpose of those meetings are just to listen and learn. I think, you know, first and foremost, when you come in, you don't want to make assumptions, right? And a veteran teaching staff can tell you exactly what's going well, where do we need to focus our efforts. You know, one of the initiatives that we have this year is a strategic planning initiative that'll guide the district for the next 3 to 5 years. And having their input in that process is going to be absolutely critical.
What are some of the things that keep you awake at night? What are some of the heavy things that you think about that you know you have to be aware of?
Yeah, probably top of mind, right? At the end of last year with the incident in Texas, Uvalde, Texas, you know, making sure that we start off with really tight safety and security procedures. And going back and revisiting district plans and building plans and working with our local law enforcement. I think we need kids to feel safe. We need parents to feel assured that when their kids are sent to school, that they're in good hands. So that's probably one of the biggest things top of mind coming into the district.
I would agree. Anything else?
Making sure that we stay focused. There's so much distraction in the world these days. Stay focused and protect teaching and learning. And so, and I think that's my job and central office's job to try to do that for our staff.
Yeah, no doubt about that. What are some of the things that you really enjoy about your job when you walk in there? You say, okay, this is why.
Yep.
I'm happy to be an administrator.
Yep. And I think one of the things that's very unique about this particular role is you never know what you're going to get on a given day.
I could imagine.
So whether it's supporting students being in classrooms, right, encouraging teachers, whether it's working on bond projects and seeing how they progress, looking at enrollment capacity and looking at long-range projections, budgeting. I mean, there's a lot of different variation to the job, and it's really about getting to know people, listening, and kind of creating that path for the future.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and you're really talking about K through 12, right? And really, early education as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is a very nice facility in here in Kearney. So you're dealing with all levels of child development. Talk to me about how you see kids nowadays growing up. What are some of the things that you might, as an administrator, that you're seeing that others of us whose kids are 40 years old now, what's different about kids nowadays? What's different about their emotional development and educational needs?
Yeah, so again, I hate to keep going back to COVID, but the last 2 years, that was really difficult on a lot of students. We know there's real learning loss. We know that it took a toll on social emotional well-being of our students. And it's really kind of going back to what we consider more normal. And I think when you have a normal, predictable routine, I think kids tend to thrive in that. So really kind of resuming that, I think, is going to be critical for this upcoming school year.
So I was going to ask, so are we getting away from, when we started the COVID thing, I know we weren't going to talk about it.
It's all right.
Sorry, I keep bringing it up.
But when we started the COVID thing, we did all these different things that were really disruptive. And obviously, not to rehash the past because we didn't know what was going on at the time, but we pulled people out. And if you were in contact with this person, then you can't talk to that person, and you're over here and we're Zoom this and that. Are we kind of getting away from that and just saying we've got to push through? Because a lot of these kids lost 2 years of their high school life. For me, that would have left 5 years to go. But for the normal kid, you get 4 years in high school.
Right.
So I'm curious, that's 2 years of, if you lost 2 years of your high school, that's
it's disruptive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was learning loss. I do feel like Kearney has done an exceptional job of staying instructionally focused. And I don't think while they had to grapple with a lot of management, I really feel like this district did a lot of good things. And I think we learned a lot through the pandemic. I think with virtual education and kids going online, I think we had to be adaptable and flexible in ways that we never thought possible, which I think will carry forward to the future. But I do feel like we're entering an endemic phase. We're moving away from the pandemic. It's, we're moving into the endemic. CDC still has guidance, but again, that resuming normalcy, creating predictability, creating routine, consistency for students, I think that's really top of mind for folks, and allowing teachers to focus on teaching and learning. We saw the value of teachers, when we first, March of 2020, when everything first closed down, and we saw the level of skill that it takes to be a classroom teacher, right? And again, it's reminding folks of that, building those relationships with parents. We want parents in our schools. That partnership is so critical, and we're looking forward to that this year.
You talk about parents being involved, and I hear about parents as teachers, and is PTA, Parent-Teacher Association, still a thing?
It's still a thing.
Okay.
Yes.
If you've got these kinds of organizations, obviously there are some involved I have to imagine you're seeing more parents involved as parents, as teachers, and with PTA here in the district. Am I wrong about that?
I'm still learning the district,
Yeah.
but I believe that we have a healthy parent base that's supporting the schools.
How important is it, seems obvious, but I want to hear it from you, how important is it for a child to have their parent involved in their education?
Oh, I think that's absolutely critical.
If they
Absolutely
can't, if they
critical.
don't have time, let's just say that parents are always busy. Parents could be busy 24 hours a day. What can a parent do if they can't make it to a meeting, if they can't be a part of one of these organizations? What can parents do at home to make sure that they're actively involved in their child's education?
Sure, and I think, again, I think we've become very accustomed to different means of communication and technology. And it's just that routine connection with the teacher, right? And I think our staff will be more than willing to reach out and partner with families and help support, build that two-way communication so that they can support, parents can support their children at home. Yeah.
Right. Do you have a family of your own?
I do.
Okay. Well, tell us about it.
Yeah, my husband Doug, he's a graphic designer, web developer, and I have two children. My son Michael, he is 25 and he's at the University of Missouri. He's starting his third year medical school, and my daughter Sarah, she just completed her associate's degree and is looking to complete her bachelor's in software development.
Very nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'd like to go back for a second because Mike kind of touched on it. Put you on the spot here for a minute.
Sure.
No pressure.
Okay.
We've come into a realm. Everybody knows the things with the parents, and they're supposedly battling the schools and this, that, and the other. That's a big public thing. But as it relates to Kearney, one of the things that I was wondering from an administrator, we've kind of talked about this on the show before with other people with the school. If you're going to go to the school board or the school administration, standing up and ranting and raving for 30 minutes doesn't do anybody any good. I know everybody wants their 30 seconds of fame, and you hope you're a a TikTok sensation or whatever the thing may be. From an administrator standpoint, what do you find to be most beneficial when parents come to you with concerns? It's how it's presented, but what helps you as an administrator so that actually you are working together for the benefit of the student, not so we can just have an all-out,
Yeah.
melee on TV or whatever?
I think one of the things that I would encourage parents, wherever the conflict is, that's probably where the conversation should start. So if there's questions happening in the classroom, start with the conversation with the classroom teacher. And if that's not remedied, layer in the principal or the assistant principal. Sometimes what ends up happening, and oftentimes miscommunication will happen, and it may go to the board or myself first. We engage in that conversation. It's something that's easily remedied or talked through. But a lot of times I think there's fear about starting with where the conflict currently exists, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because fortunately in Kearney, we've had a very, the people we talk to, parents and that, they moved to this area, and the number one reason is school district. I'd say almost 90% of the time. But then we did have some things, and I realized tensions got high all through the Rona thing and everything else. Sure. But one of the things we've tried to promote is if there's a problem, making sure that because the kids are the goal. At the end of the day, the kids are the goal, not to, be some showing sensation. I know a lot of people like to do that, but so that's what we were getting at. Is just how can we make the district so everybody's on the same page, so we get the kids with the best education possible.
And it's all about building relationships, right? And again, it's that relationship between teacher and parent. So when things occur, that's an easier conversation to have, And sometimes, depending on what the issue is, sometimes a phone call is better than an email, and just really understanding the level of concern you have, but starting where the concerns originate.
And does you talked about it, but does the PTA really talk with the school? I don't even know.
I don't know either. I mean, I guess I can recall PTA meetings, and I would bring a little piece of paper home from a mimeograph machine.
Sure.
And give it to my folks, and then you could attend the PTA meeting, which was generally at a time when it was convenient to working parents.
Right.
But I guess the question is, what goes on in those organizations, and how are they connected, I guess, with your administration?
Sure. Generally, the PTA meetings are in close conjunction with the building principal. So I meet with the building principals on a regular basis. But, it's not out of the question for me to participate in a PTA meeting or, host the PTA leaders. So that would be something that we would look to do in the future.
Yeah, I want to ask you this because it's relevant from our last guest. Youth with a Vision it's a student-led organization of high schoolers from Clay, Platte, and Ray counties. And we had a young man in here, Jonas Beckham, a little while ago, who's a junior at Smithville. And he's involved in a program that is designed and developed to keep kids off of drugs and alcohol and any kind of other potentially harmful substances. What are you seeing now, and what are some of the threats that, I guess, naive people like myself at times seem to think, well, that's pretty well cleaned up by now. I mean, other than fentanyl, which is something that we hear of nearly daily. Right. What are you seeing in the schools right now? What do we have? What do we have to fear, I guess?
Right. I mean, I think, drugs and alcohol is something that is always a concern, right? We always want to make sure that we're pre-teaching, both at the home and at the school setting, safe, how to be safe, and what to avoid, So I think there's always been a risk of drugs and alcohol. We hear the concerns both locally and nationally about that occurring. I have not, from a data perspective, seen something that would lead me to believe that Kearney is an outlier in that area by any means. But I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to put support measures in place to teach kids good pathways forward and make right decisions.
Yeah,
And I appreciate the student-led activities because sometimes student voice carries a lot more than adult voice.
I think that's right. It depends on how it's managed, although I think Jonas had a pretty good methodology, I think, for a young man of 17 years old. I think it would be a challenge to have to go up to one of your classmates who probably doesn't want to hear, if they're abusing drugs, they don't want to hear, hey, stop using drugs.
Well, that's where you start to, how do you build your culture,
yes.
right? Where it's okay for kids to, safely confront in a nice way and protect the others, yep.
Yeah.
That's where I was talking about. I don't know how you do it, honestly, because when I was in school, and you were in school probably, I'm sure it still exists. It's just the human condition. You have factions. You've got your athletes and your scholars and your chess club or whatever it is now. And if someone from the chess club were to go talk to one of the athletes and say, hey, you know what you ought to do. I don't know how you do
But
that.
I think that's only natural. Right? People tend to gravitate towards others of like interests, right? But you can still have leadership within all of those groups that kind of helps up that cultural tone within that particular peer group.
Yeah, I think that it's critical, especially now. We talked, I don't know if you heard, but we talked about with the thing with like the alcohol use and the marijuana, that's a progressive thing. But the fentanyl is a one-hit, you're one and done, or what do they call, one pill to kill, or whatever they're saying.
Pretty troubling.
Yeah, so getting the message across is hugely important because you don't get a whole lot of time to deal with it. So.
Yeah, health classes, PE, all that instruction is really critical to getting that message out.
Doesn't it seem like that parents really start the whole thing? I mean, you're raising your children. This is your most important job on the planet. I know you're not responsible for telling people how to raise their kids. But I'm just curious, you've obviously raised a terrific family. Just give us just a short bit of wisdom about being a parent.
I think parents are our children's first best teachers, right? And that relationship, little eyes are always watching. They watch in the big moments and in the small moments, and kids carry that message forward, right? And it influences adults, especially parents, influence their decision making, and you can see that even formatively at a kindergarten jumpstart drop-off. But no, you're absolutely right. It is the most critical job someone could have.
No doubt about it. I think we're getting ready to take a break. Yep, Brian's shaking his head.
I'll take care
yes.
of that. Dr. Miller, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it. Looking forward to the new year. That's going to be a lot of fun. And we've got other stuff coming up. We'll talk about it in just a minute. We'll be back with our final thoughts right after this. Stay with us.
Kearney Bulldog football is here, and you can listen to the game with live play-by-play action on the Bulldog Radio Network right here on 102.7 FM or our live stream at 1027KMO.com. You can also find us by downloading the TuneIn or MyTuner radio apps on your phone and searching for KPGZ. The Bulldog Radio Network will broadcast the game live on Friday, September 9th, as the Bulldogs take on the Smithville Warriors. The pregame show starts at 6:40 and the kickoff is at 7. Kearney Bulldog Football 2022. Catch the fever.
And welcome back to Kearney Live and our new studio here. Final thoughts before we leave. Want to remind you that on August 20th, out at the Kearney Amphitheater, you have the Silver Bullet tribute to Bob Seeger. So you don't want to miss that. Make sure that's August 20th at 7 p.m. But the big thing that we want to talk about before we go is coming up on September 1st will be the first episode of the Coach Minnick Show. So that will be, we think, we're going to do a time change on this. We haven't verified it yet, but I think it's going to be 11 o'clock. So those of you who used to watch over lunchtime will have to watch the podcast because I think it's going to be 11 because apparently Coach Minnick has a class that conflicts with 12 o'clock.
Priorities, man.
I guess teaching is important
Yes.
or something like that. So anyway, join us for the Coach Minnick Show. I got to tell you, I am really looking forward to some Kearney Bulldog football.
I am too, and we've had Coach Minnick on the show, so we've had a chance to introduce ourselves, and he brings a new attitude, I think, to this team, and we're all excited about it. And don't forget that Jim Dickerson is your voice of the Kearney Bulldogs, and I will be right next to him giving the play-by-play analysis out there at every home game and maybe an away game or two. We'll see how that plays out. We're here to wrap it up, guys. All right, first day in the new studio. Thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Emily Miller, you were terrific. We really appreciate you. Thanks for being here. And Jim Dickerson, nicely done. This is fun. We'll get used to the new studio. Hopefully everybody else out there will too. We'll see you next week on Kearney Live.